Yo, what's up guys? Flip Thunder here, and welcome back to another ranking video. Today we are ranking the Saw franchise. This franchise is easily one of the most well-known among horror fans, since the first 7 were released once a year apart from each other, spawning a huge horror soap opera. From convoluted plot twists, to characters' backstories, to the gory traps, Saw became an iconic franchise very quickly. And now that I've seen all 10 of them, I decided it would be a fun idea to rank them all. So let's get started. Coming in at number 10, we have Spiral from the Book of Saw. Spiral was the first and only Saw movie to be completely disconnected from the rest. It features no returning characters from the other films and instead focused on Detective Zeke Banks and rookie detective William Shank as they investigate a copycat Jigsaw killer who is terrorizing their police department. While most Saw movies have 2 different stories, one for the people in traps and one for the cops investigating Jigsaw, this movie focuses solely on the cop plot. I did like the ending twist that Shank was the copycat. While Spiral was great and had comedic moments thanks to Chris Rock, and some of the scariest traps yet, it doesn't hold up as well as the rest of the movies on this list. Coming in at number 9, we have Saw 4. Saw 4 was the first Saw movie to be released after the death of John Kramer, the Jigsaw killer. With most of the main characters killed off in Saw 3, they brought in a bunch of new ones, including Daniel Rigg, Mark Hoffman, Peter Strahm, and Lindsay Perez. The main focus in this movie is on Daniel Rigg, who is being tested so he can stop doing his job. I know, it makes no sense, but that's one of the movie's weak points. Rigg is being forced to let people die because Jigsaw thinks he isn't living his own life. Rigg makes his way all across town trying to save everybody he can despite John's wishes on his way to save Eric Matthews, the cop Jigsaw held captive since Saw 2, and Mark Hoffman. Another thing about this movie, none of the traps are really that memorable. They were all kind of basic, which really took away from the horror, and what sucks is that Rigg didn't even win in the end, because Eric ultimately was killed. What keeps this movie out of last place is that it introduced Mark Hoffman, who, surprise surprise, is the new Jigsaw. Coming in at number 8, we have Jigsaw. Jigsaw was the first Saw movie to be released after the first 7, and tried to reinvent the story with new characters. I'd say it was successful in that regard. I liked the new characters. Detective Halloran was a fun new take on corrupt cops. Eleanor was certainly an interesting one, with her being a fan of Jigsaw's work, but not outright being an apprentice of his. And Logan was a very well-built character with a great backstory, and an understandable motive for joining Jigsaw in his quest to rehabilitate people. I do like the twist with the trap plot we're seeing actually took place 10 years prior, and we got to see John return as well. While it does feel like a redo of Saw 2's ending, I still really liked it. Coming in at number 7, we have Saw 3. This one's beloved by many Saw fans, and I see why, but I'm not a huge fan of it. For one, John Kramer is on his deathbed for the whole dang movie. Amanda is just crying and simping for John the whole time, and Jeff Denlin, the guy being tested, shows no motivation whatsoever to save those around him. Jeff is being tested to forgive those who were involved in a drunk driving accident that killed his son, and while he does try to save them eventually, he takes so long to do it that most of them end up dead before he even succeeds. And it's so annoying to see him do this over and over again. And the ending twist isn't that great. Jeff kills John, and John plays a tape saying that he kidnapped Jeff's daughter, and now he'll never find her. So cool. Coming in at number 6, we have Saw 5. Saw 5 focused mainly on explaining Hoffman's backstory and why he became one of John's apprentices, all while Special Agent Peter Strahm follows his trail to prove that Hoffman is a corrupt cop. It's a great movie that really keeps you on the edge of your seat. Meanwhile, 5 people who are put in a trial for covering up a corrupt fire that happened at an apartment complex, or something like that, are going through some traps. The theme is that they must work together to survive, but their selfishness can not let them, and by the time they get to the end, there's only 2 of them left, which makes it all the more harder for them to succeed at the end with the blood donation trap. The traps in this movie are very unsettling, and I mean that in a good way. You have nail bombs, electric bathtubs, and saws that cut your hand in half. And the twist at the end is great too, where Hoffman leads Strahm right into his own trap, killing him and ensuring that no one will be able to rat him out. Coming in at number 5, we have Saw 3D. I know people are probably going to be running to the comments saying how wrong I am for putting this one so high, but hey, it's my opinion. This movie is actually pretty good. Yeah, some of the characters are annoying and make dumb decisions, but I still think Jeff is worse. This movie put Hoffman in the most evil position yet. From creating some of the deadliest traps yet, to actively hunting Jill Tuck, John's ex-wife, killing an entire police station. He was out for revenge in this movie, against everyone who wronged him. But he went out but he went out not realizing he had one final enemy in the form of Dr. Lawrence Gordon, John's secret and most loyal apprentice. With Jill dead, Gordon took Hoffman to the bathroom from the first movie and left him there to die. This is easily my favorite ending of any Saw movie, but I can't rank it any higher because the rest of the movies are just better. Coming in at number 4, we have Saw 6. Following the events of Saw 5, Hoffman meets up with more FBI agents who are investigating the Jigsaw killings and teams up with him to ensure his freedom. But when their investigation gets too close for comfort, he panics and begins the next game as quickly as possible. The traps in this movie are some of the most brutal we've seen, but not for the physical pain. Due to William's corrupt healthcare policy, he's being forced to decide who lives or dies, much like his policy does. While he regrets most of his actions by the end, a grieving mother and son sentence him to death for killing their husband/father. Meanwhile, the FBI finds a tape left behind a trap from Saw 5 and descrambles it, revealing Hoffman's true voice. With his cover blown, he kills the FBI agents and burns the building to the ground. But his day gets worse when Jill Tuck arrives and traps Hoffman in one of John's traps per his request in his will. The ending is one of the best parts, as we see Hoffman break his hand and tear his head out of the reverse bear trap and survive, setting up his revenge in Saw 3D. Coming in at number 3, we have Saw 2. Following the success of the first film, the writers knew they needed to explain more about John Kramer, and boy did they deliver. The police raid Jigsaw's lair and hold him hostage, all while his latest game begins. Eric Matthews, the lead cop, is forced to try and keep his cool after realizing his son Daniel is one of the people in the game. And you can just see him struggling as John taunts him the entire time. Meanwhile, at the nerve gas house, the site of the game, a group of misfits must try and escape before they die from the poison that's in the air. Each one slowly starts to go insane from the poison, to the point where they start trying to kill each other off while in search for the antidote. The ending is super exciting, as Amanda and Daniel escape from one of their rogue acquaintances and find themselves in the same bathroom that Gordon and Adam were trapped in from the first movie. Meanwhile, Eric forces John to take him to the nerve gas house, only to be trapped in the bathroom by Amanda, who joined John after she survived her test in the first film. It was here that the cops realized the cameras they were watching of the game was not live footage, and now John's missing. This ending was so awesome as you learn the truth at the same time as the cops, and it really sets up the next film, seeing as John's really beat up from Eric Matthews, but you know he's going to return. Coming in at number 2, we have Saw X, the latest installment in the franchise. This was actually my first Saw movie, and I loved it, but enjoy it even more after seeing the rest of the franchise. This movie puts John in a vulnerable position when a group of scammers trick him into thinking they cured him of his brain cancer. Upon learning the truth, he puts them all in a game. What's interesting is that you really root for John, as the scammers don't even care that they scammed him, or that they scammed many others before him. They only care about escaping and start begging to live. We really see a new side of John, as the ones in the game hurt him personally, unlike all the others who merely did things he didn't like while he was around. Cecilia was easily the most evil, and even escaped her trap, but putting John in their own trap wasn't enough. So she found a kid outside the factory and put him in the trap too. Thankfully, in a great twist, we learn that John had planned for this and booby-trapped the upper room with poison. With Cecilia trapped, John, Amanda, and the kid escape while Cecilia remains trapped, but alive. A very good movie, and I do think Cecilia will return, but we'll have to wait and see what happens in Saw 11. Finally, coming in at number 1, we of course have Saw, the one that started it all. This movie is much less gory than the rest, but is actually more like an escape room. Dr. Gordon and Adam wake up in a bathroom underground and must solve the puzzles in order to escape, all while Detective Tapp and Singh are investigating the Jigsaw killer. We see in many flashbacks the Jigsaw killer executing his traps, and the cops trying and failing to catch him, resulting in the death of Detective Singh. Towards the end, Dr. Gordon's family is kidnapped, and this is where it gets scary as they are held at gunpoint by Zepp, one of Dr. Gordon's coworkers. With no hope left to save his family, Gordon uses the saw on the floor to cut his foot off, freeing himself from the chain. It is a brutal and bloody scene, and what makes it worse is that we can't stop him. All we can do is watch. This movie does that a lot. Meanwhile, Detective Tapp, who is spying on Gordon's family believing he was Jigsaw, sees Zepp leaving and pursues him, but ends up dead at the hands of Zepp in the process. Zepp arrives at the bathroom only to be killed by Adam, allowing Gordon to crawl away. But the big twist of all, the most well done of the whole series, is when we learn that Zepp wasn't the Jigsaw killer, and as Adam hears the tape, we see the dead body that was in the middle of the room for hours on end rise from the floor, revealing himself as John Kramer and the mastermind behind this whole thing. The movie ends expertly with John walking to the door, turning off the light, and slamming the door shut on Adam, and closing with his iconic phrase, "Game over." Despite this being a low-budget movie, and with not great acting, it still remains the best of the whole franchise. All that being said, that's my ranking of the Saw movies, and now I'd like to hear yours. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought of this list and what other movies you might want to see me rank. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.